Lionel with you. Joining me right now is Gina Maisano. She's the author of this book, Intimacy After Breast Cancer, Dealing with Your Body, Relationships, and Sex. And Gina Maisano, welcome.
Thank you.
First, I want to talk to you about a couple of things. Your plight, if you will, very quickly.
I had breast cancer twice. The first time was in 2001, and the second time was in 2007. The first time, it was known as triple-negative breast cancer that women don't really know about too much, but it strikes about 30% of women. It's a very aggressive form of breast cancer, and there are no after drugs you can take to help you fight it. The second time I had breast cancer, I had the opposite kind that responds to estrogen and progesterone. So that means I can take the medicines that protect you afterwards. So I've seen both sides of the cancer spectrum. I've had chemotherapies, radiations, bilateral mastectomies, reconstructive surgeries, and I'm back to tell about it.
And you're here and you're healthy, and
yes.
that's what we're going to emphasize first of all, because one of the things that I think Gina is never talked about is the success rate. You never hear, because I think that inadvertently doesn't encourage people to donate, because they think, well, you know, cancer is, there's really not much success being made. Yes, there is. Now, first of all, tell us about your foundation.
Well, my foundation takes you from the moment you are diagnosed.
What is the name of the foundation?
The No Surrender Breast Cancer Foundation. Until we have a cure, we get you through your breast cancer. When a woman sits in her doctor's office and he tells her, you have breast cancer, she stops hearing everything else he said. So what we do is, we have a website that she can go on, and it explains her diagnosis in detail, explains her prognosis, her success rate, all the things that can happen that are good, not just the 20-year-old stats that are online that can scare you. Going to Dr. Google can be one of the most scary things a woman can do. Then we teach her what she needs to wear to her surgeries, how to get through the surgeries, what each procedure will feel like, how to get through chemotherapy, break down every single chemo, what to eat before chemo, what to have at home, and then we take you to living your best life after cancer. And if that's not enough, we have a live support forum that a woman can jump onto and talk to women from all over the world in every stage of treatment, whether newly diagnosed or 10 years out. And there are little tips that you get from a survivor that you can't get from a doctor. We're by survivor, for survivor. And I've found that when I was first diagnosed, I wanted to hear from someone who had been through everything they were asking me to go through, and I couldn't find that person.
Now let's talk about this program of yours to increase women to get a baseline mammogram. Explain that.
Okay.
And why that's important.
One of the things that I noticed the hard way on my foundation and website was we have so many women who were diagnosed before the age of 40, and a lot of those women didn't make it. And they were also diagnosed with the triple-negative breast cancer that I spoke of. I want to change the standard of care that the American Cancer Society and the government and everyone else has set up, that 40 is the age that you get your first mammogram. And now the U.S. Preventative Task Force says 50. That's bad advice.
This is counterintuitive. I'm not a physician, but it seems to me that there may be other agendas here, perhaps beyond the scope of this interview, but there may be some other agendas here that are responsible for pushing this ahead. Explain the idea of why baseline is important and why it's important for a woman, let's say 35 years old, to have a reference point, a baseline that a radiologist can look at later on.
Well, I'll give you my own personal example. I was 35 years old getting a regular GYN checkup. My doctor said to me, you're 35, you live on Long Island, you're going to get a baseline mammogram. I said, I am? That's crazy. He said, you're going to go do it. I've seen too many women with breast cancer. So every year I went and I got my mammogram and sonogram. And at age 39, they saw a very, very small shadow. Now, if I had waited till the age of 40 to get my first baseline mammogram, that shadow would have looked like normal tissue. That shadow turned out to be a triple-negative, extremely aggressive breast cancer. I was able to get that excised. I did 6 months of chemotherapy. I had a lumpectomy at the time. And I did radiation after that. But my best friend, she had a triple-negative tumor. She waited till she was 41 to get her first mammogram. and she's not here anymore.
And had she, theoretically, had she had that baseline reference point for a radiologist to look at, that seemingly innocuous and harmless spot or shadow would have meant something completely different had they had that. And
it's
also
like a
African
blueprint.
Americans and Hispanic.
Well, yeah, she was African American, and what we found is that African American and Hispanic women get breast cancer early. They get it younger, and they usually get triple negative breast cancer. So our Before 40 initiative targets African American communities and Hispanic communities to teach them first what triple negative breast cancer is, what their risks are, and how they have to get screened early, because there is no cure for breast cancer. Unless you find it early, you can survive.
Now let me ask this question. We had talked about this before. Let's say a young woman goes in and says, that's a great idea. I'm going to go in and I'm 35 or younger, or at that age. And they say, you know what, your breasts are dense, and this isn't going to work. So go ahead, move along. This mammogram will work. What should they do?
If a doctor tells you that your breasts are dense and a mammogram won't pick up anything, say, okay, give me a sonogram. Get me a breast MRI. I want to have this done. Women who have a family history of breast cancer, who are of Ashkenazi heritage, and African American women can push that they have a high predisposition for breast cancer, and maybe that will convince their doctor to go ahead and...
And there's been so much gene research, BRCA1 I've read about, and all these...
BRCA1 and BRCA2.
All these various
yes.
indicators. Now, explain something which is also very frightening to me. Why is it that you're fighting? I don't understand why the insurance industry, and this may be a political question, or the medical industry doesn't say, you know, if we catch these things earlier, we're going to save a lot of money.
Well,
let's encourage this.
The price of a mammogram compared to $200,000 worth of chemotherapy. You know, if you find something early, you may not have to do chemo. You may just have to have the tumor removed and get radiation.
Right.
So what they're doing to deny a baseline mammogram, when you think of the cost of treating a breast cancer that has become invasive, really doesn't make any sense if their bottom line is what they're watching out for.
Now, I'm not suggesting this, and neither are you, but if somebody were to say, you know, I'm having some symptoms here, you might want to check this out. Oh, that does elevate it, does it not?
It does, and you could also go to another doctor who's a little bit more understanding.
And that's another thing, too. Patients and consumers have to realize this is your body, and when you realize what the standard of care is, and these are good people, these are good doctors, but they're, put it this way, they don't have the same energy level and verve that you would have. Now,
well, the problem with doctors, excuse me, right now is...
How much time do we have for that one?
They are practicing law as well as medicine.
Yes.
So where their instinct is to get something taken care of, they have to think about all of the legal ramifications before they go ahead and put something through.
That's the whole
so they are
defensive medicine
really up against it.
Now, most importantly, the book, Intimacy After Breast Cancer.
Yes.
And this is something which I think is so fascinating. This is perhaps the last considered. We've cured you, we've treated you, you're okay, see you later. And then the mending starts. Give us an idea of what this book provides in terms of the emotional health and spiritual health that a woman needs after this type of event.
After 2 bouts with breast cancer, I discovered another not so pleasant thing when I left my doctor's office. When you're done, they say, okay, bye. Go ahead, live your own life. You go home, you're 30 pounds heavier from the chemotherapy treatments, you don't have any hair, you're bloated, you feel terrible and tired, and they say go back to your own life. And your family's waiting for you and they're thinking, oh, you finished everything, you should feel great. Well, no, you don't feel great. Who is this person in the mirror? So I wanted to make sure women knew you can get your hair back, you can get your body back, you can get your skin back, and you can get your love life back. Because one of the things chemo leaves you with is an inability to experience sexual satisfaction or even have a libido, because it turns off all the estrogen in your body.
You've just been poisoned to the brink of death. Let's talk about what chemo is.
Right.
They almost killed you with it.
Right.
So I think it's rather rational to think that there might be some negative side effects.
Right, but my favorite side effect of chemo is it works.
Indeed. Well, the book is called Intimacy After Breast Cancer, Gina Maisano. Again, the name of the organization of the foundation is?
No Surrender Breast Cancer Foundation.
And we want women to go there. And also, we want women to learn more about getting a baseline mammogram at the age of 35.
Yes.
Push it, pursue it. It's so critical. About 40,000 women a year die from breast cancer.
Yes, they do.
Gina Maisano, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us.